right. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Panel. I'm your co-host, Mike, and I'm joined by my co-host, Patrick from Addicted to Combat. And we're joined by WizBets and Lucrative MMA today to break down UFC 284 from the bottom up. We'll go over every fight, give you guys any plays we have, any picks, and I'll pass the mic to my co-host. What's up, Pat? What are you thinking for this card, brother? You like it?
Man, I'm so excited for this one. I know there was a lot of fights that fell off of this 13-fight card, but still, it's carried strong by the main event, especially with a champion versus champion matchup. I think it's the first one we've had in about a year and a half now, so very good to have that. Two of the best fighters to do it. And the co-main event, not bad either. You know, should be a fun, possibly a striker versus striker matchup. Maybe there'll be some things mixed up, but either way, a lot of debuting fighters in this card, which will be fun to meet some new faces, learn some new names, and make some money. And I'm glad to be joined by WizBets, who I know very well, and James from Lucrative, who I'm meeting for the first time, but definitely a fan of his work, and it's a pleasure to have both of these guys on here.
Hell yeah. Wiz, how about you, brother? What are you thinking for the card?
I mean, coming off of a card like last week where there's a lot of extensive tape study, going into this card, it's a lot easier. I'm pretty excited. Easier in a sense that we don't have to dig too deep for this tape study, but a lot more household names that we have on this card, if that makes sense. But really excited, and thank you guys for having me on.
Of course, brother. Thanks for coming on. And James, thank you for coming on as well. What are you thinking for the card, brother?
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks for inviting me on. First time I'm doing a panel with you. Shout out, Patrick. I've seen your stuff, but first time we're doing a panel, so hopefully we get some synergy going. You know, I know Mike quite well. We've done a couple podcasts together. This card should be good, man. I mean, I'm never really one to moan about any cards. You know, there's people out there in the space who are like, this is a terrible card like last week. I mean, it was a terrible card, but there was a ton of finishes. I won a ton of money. So I'm not the type of person to moan, you know, because there's always an opportunity to make money. This card is actually decent. There's some sleeper fights. I think it's going to be a violent card again. And I think I'm going to make a lot of money again, man. So hopefully it goes well.
Hell yeah. And if anybody thought last week's card was bad, look at next week's card. I don't know if I've seen anything like that in a long time. But to start off the show, before we do anything, I owe Wiz a shoey bet because my dumb ass decided I'm going to take Denise Tiulin, and that didn't work out very well for me. So we'll be doing a shoey. Anybody who knows already knows I can't drink beer, so it's going to have to be a White
Is that
Claw.
a lime White Claw?
I only drink lime. Well, not only. I have a ruby.
That's my favorite flavor of White Claw. It's pretty
Mostly
good.
lime. Yeah, me too. Lime and lemon. But to you, Wiz, I think you're 2-0 against me now in shoeys, if I remember. I suck at shoey bets. I suck at them. But cheers, guys. To a good card.
Cheers.
Good man.
Prince of Mischief saying you got to spit in the shoe first, so be sure to do that. Add to the lime.
You are out of. Is that even a thing?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And we're in Australia this week, man. So, you know, it's even more of a thing.
You know what? Even if you guys are fucking with me, I'll do it anyways.
We're definitely not.
That's traditional Aussie
Oh my
shoey.
God. You really hacked up something and put it in there too.
Justin's like addicted to combat, going with the Heart Foundation attire.
Yes.
Yo, Lou, do not start with me, because remember when you did a White Claw shoey? You remember? He remembers.
Oh boy, there we are.
Man. Good
Not
man.
bad.
Easy.
All right, we're good to go, and let's hop right into this card. Yo, I wore them once. All right.
Haven't broken them in yet.
Nope. But for this fight, we've got a featherweight bout: Zubaira Tukhugov versus Elves Brenner. Zubaira's 25-1. He's 32 years old, 5'8" with a 68-inch reach, training out of AKA with the Dagestani gang. Brenner, 13-3-0, 25 years old, so he's going to be 7 years younger here. 5'9", he's an inch taller. Training out of Shootbox Diego Lima. I'll pass the mic to my co-host first. What are you thinking for this one, Pat?
Man, I mean, first off, I'm glad to see Tukhugov back in the cage after like a year and a half. I know he botched the weight cut a couple times at featherweight, so moving him up here. But, I mean, it should be a clear win for Tukhugov, but the money line is just way too much to even get involved with it. I'd be looking at the unders more than anything because you've got such a violent finisher in Elvis Brenner. But again, he's got 11 submissions. He needs to get this fight to the mat probably to get something happening. And Tukhugov can be reckless in the feet and powerful there because he knows he's got the wrestling advantage. He can, win minutes on top control, maybe look for a sub himself. So I'd look at Tukhugov inside the distance or the under 2.5 in the spot, but altogether it's a pass spot for me. But I think Tukhugov should win this fight pretty easily.
Makes sense to me. How about you, Lucrative?
Yeah, so I agree mainly with what Pat said. Massive step down for Zubaira here. And oftentimes what we see in these fighters where they take a big step down is they get finishes. Even if fighters are not necessarily finishers, the finishes just happen. And I do think that's a good chance for this to happen in this fight. If you go and look at Elvis's tape, he's terrible on the feet. He gets hit in a lot of fights. He gets wobbled in a lot of fights. He can be taken down. He seems like he likes to go to the grappling. But even on the ground, I've seen him put in deep submission attempts. The only thing I'll say against that bet that I mentioned, the Zubaira inside the distance, is that, he has never been stopped, Elvis Brenner, right? So I'm always a little bit wary backing fighters to get stopped when they haven't been stopped. But I am still doing it here. Like I said, everything points to a finish. Zubaira hits pretty hard. We just haven't really seen it because he's been fighting the top of the top, or at least the top 15. So I'm going with Zubaira inside the distance. Me personally, I'm taking it under 2.5 rounds because MMA is crazy. You never know what could happen. Plus money on that under 2.5 is pretty good for me. I think Zubaira knocks him out in round 2.
Nice. Wiz, how about you?
Let's make it 4 for 4. Yeah, obviously Zubaira is the biggest favorite card for a reason. Brenner's takedown defense is pretty much non-existent. And the better striker here, in my opinion, is Zubaira as well. I will use a solid parlay piece. Sneaky under potential is what I wrote in my notes because Brenner doesn't really go to decision all that often. 3 out of 5 was past and they ended inside the distance. Tukhugov has been fighting the guys like Ramos, Daudu, Kevin Aguilar, Laron Murphy, Renato Moicano in his last 5, and he went 2-2-1. And these guys, as James mentioned, cream of the crop, or at least top 15. So I think Brenner's just outmatched here, outclassed. And I think Zubaira does get the finish inside the distance. He does have some power in his hands. As James mentioned again, you guys bring up a lot of good points. He just has faced the cream of the crop, and the power in hands doesn't really work all that often when you're facing high level competition. So yeah, give me Zubaira inside the distance.
Yeah, what can I say you guys haven't said already? I'm definitely on the under. I really like that plus money price tag because James said it. Yeah, Tukhugov should just kill this guy probably on the feet. You never know. Brenner has, I believe it's 11 submissions. He's half decent on the ground. I don't see anything too crazy when I watch his tape, but 11 subs speaks to something. But realistically, I see this staying on the feet for the most part. Tukhugov just messing him up. And his striking defense is so bad. He's so hittable. He wings so much. Just not a lot to like with Brenner. Hopefully he shows up, gives it a good fight, and then maybe we can either bet or fade him next fight. But for now, just the under, plus 130 for me, 1 unit. And we can move on to our next fight. We've got a featherweight bout. Once again, we got Blake Bilder versus Shane Young. Bilder is 7-0-1. He's 32 years old. 5'8" with the 69-inch reach, and I'm not positive where he's training out of. I've got Sub Fighter MMA on Tapology. Young, he's 13-6-0, 29 years old, 3 years younger, same height. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage, training out of City Kickboxing. And Lucrative, why don't you start us off?
I think the cat's starting us off, man. The cat's oh, and you got the dog behind you as well. You got the whole family in the back, man. Bring them on the podcast.
Yeah, Mike's always got a zoo with him in these streams.
Spliff is always with me.
Yeah, I think this is the Blake Bilder fight, right? The Bilder Young.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think Shane Young's going to win the fight. I don't really rate Bilder at all, but I will say about Bilder is that he's won every single fight he's ever fought. He's like 7-0 amateur and like 7-0 professional, around there somewhere. So I look at him and I don't really rate him. I don't rate his skill set. He doesn't look that good on the feet. He looks very uncomfortable. He's been taken down, grappled. I've seen him hurt. I've seen him lose most fights. and then come back and win. That Buena Fuerte fight, he was getting completely dominated. The Carvalho fight, he got dropped a couple of times, got hurt badly. But he finds a way to win, right? He's a dog. He keeps coming forward. I actually backed him against Alex Morgan for this reason. Because he, in the Contender Series, and he was an underdog there. Because he never stops coming forward, and he always finds a way to win. But I think he's going up against someone who isn't going to give him those opportunities, right? He's not facing a regional scene guy anymore. Shane Young's a good fighter. He pumps out a lot of volume. I was just doing Guru Scouting MMA and TB Scouting MMA's podcast before I jumped on here. And what we were saying is Shane Young, he throws out so much volume, even in that Omar Morales fight. He didn't fight well at all in that fight. He looked scared from the knockout coming back on the Ludovic Klein fight, but he still threw 100 strikes, or he still landed 100 strikes, So I feel like he's going to overwhelm Bilder in general. But I don't think I'm going to bet it, man, because the price is short. Minus 135 on Young isn't that good. And Bilder just has this way of winning fights that he shouldn't win. So he's kind of scaring me off a little bit, It happened when I bet against Chaos Williams when he came into the UFC. I thought his tape looked terrible, and then he just ends up winning loads of fights in the UFC, getting like 2 or 3 knockouts in a row. So Bilder might be one of these guys that he just doesn't look very good, but when it comes down to it, he is a dog. He gets finishes. He finds a way to win. So I'm going to take Shane Young. I definitely think Shane Young is the side, but I don't think I'm going to be the one to bet it myself.
Makes sense to me. How about you, Wiz?
Good points made by James here. Just to note, Bilder is making his debut here at 30 years old. In my opinion, Shane Young has fought the better competition. He's fought Volkan, he's fought Klein. Young, in my opinion, is going to have the advantage on the feet as he brings the pressure, and his cardio does tend to hold up, in my opinion. And the way I look at this matchup is it's more of like a striker versus grappler matchup, where Shane Young is a striker and Blake Bilder is somewhat the grappler here. For me, the pick is Shane Young. I'm probably going to pass on this fight. Both of these guys do hunt the finish, but they are quite durable themselves. So it's a complete pass for me. I don't see any edge in doing this fight. But again, that's just my opinion. There's some people that see different holes in someone's game and they can execute it. But for me, this fight stay away.
Yeah, I played Young. So we're 3 for 3 with picks. I did get him at a different price. I got him at Pick'em, minus 115. I played him for 1.2 units. And I thought that price was off. I think right now we're at the right price. I think he should be a slight favorite. And, you guys brought it up, the output, the striking. I mean, Bilder's not going to have, he's not going to be able to compete on the striking here. Not in my opinion. He starts slow. And even when he starts picking it up, it's really not that much. And in terms, James also mentioned it, Buena Fuente was killing this guy. He was killing him for the entire fight. And then he threw up a triangle. Nice, but is that going to work against Shane Young? I'm not positive. He's never been submitted. And every single fight he gets hurt. I actually backed Alex Morgan in the Contender Series fight. Ended up looking bad there. But what it did show me is Bilder, I recognized that Bilder's not wrestling often. You watch his tape, you watch his regional tape. He's not really wrestling. On the Contender Series, he got a rear naked. He did it standing, which is impressive in its own right. But if we're going to expect him to wrestle Shane Young here, we haven't really seen it all that much from Bilder. And because he's accepting bottom position, he's getting taken down by guys like Buena Fuente. I think Shane Young can wrestle him if he needs to. I think on the feet, he'll be comfortable. But if he's not, I think he could take it to the ground. And as long as he doesn't get subbed with the triangle or something, I think he's fine. And I don't see that happening. With the Morales point, I did want to talk about it. A lot of people are saying it's something to not like about Shane Young that he got taken down by Omar Morales. But dude's 5'11". Guy is a big man. He's not Blake Bilder. He's a lot bigger than Blake Bilder's Omar Morales. So while he's not a big wrestler, neither is Blake. And he's much bigger, much stronger. So I don't really see that working. I'm on Shane Young, minus 115, 1.2 units. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, this is an odd panel because I saw a lot of Blake Bilder love taking the plus money on the guy who's looked better than the last time we saw Shane Young, which was 2 years ago almost now. But I am on the Shane Young side, but this is my least confident pick probably on the entire card. Just because it's been a long layoff for Shane Young. He's still 29 years old, city kickboxing guy. And there's such a wide spectrum of competition for this guy, right? He makes his debut losing a decision to Volkanovski, goes on to beat guys who we haven't seen that are cut, right? Rolando D, Austin Arnett looks amazing. gets knocked out by Ludovic Klein, who's pretty good. And then, like James mentioned, he was hesitant against Omar Morales. So I don't really know where this guy falls, but I do think his skill set is more complete. I think he could dominate the striking more than Blake Bilder can dominate the grappling. So I'm going to pick Shane Young, probably a decision, but this is my least confident pick. I don't have any money on this one.
Yeah, I'm also kind of surprised all four of us picked Shane Young.
Yeah, I see Blake Bilder love left and right, and I don't fully hate it. Again, I don't have a clear read on this fight, but that comes with the territory when you got Shane Young coming off of a long layoff.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. But all right, we can move on to the next one, and this one is going to be a banger. We've got Loma Lookboonmee versus Elise Reed. Loma is 7-3-0. She's 27 years old, 5'1" with a 62-inch reach, training out of Bangtown Muay Thai and MMA. Reed is 6'2" 30 years old, 5'3" with a 63-inch reach, so she's 2 inches taller, 1 inch reach advantage, training out of Kickside Martial Arts. Wiz, start us off, brother.
The People's main event. I love this fight. Loma's a big favorite here, mainly due to her strength and able to clinch up against the cage and take these girls down. And to play into that, Elise Reed's inability to defend the takedowns. So I think this is a picture-perfect matchup for Loma Lookboonmee. I think she should roll here as long as she executes her game plan. Should she take downs and be able to find success in the clinch with her knees, with the short elbows, I think Loma Lookboonmee here gets the win, and I think she gets it inside the distance. I will be playing Loma KO plus 400 currently on Bet Online. Just check right now. So it's still up there. I like the Loma KO. I'm on the Loma money line, as much as I hate laying chalk on women's MMA. But for me, I think this is a setup fight for her. And then when you look at it, she's coming from around that region, from Thailand. So she's not necessarily the hometown favorite, but the fighter that's more known in that area. Why would they be flying Elise Reed all the way out from the United States here? So I think this is a really good fight for Loma.
We're on the same page. I hit the KO this actually like today. It popped up. I think I got it on, I'll tell you right now. I got it on Bet Rivers. I played it at plus 420 for 0.2 units to win, I think, just under 1. And I also played her money line. I felt disgusted with myself doing it. I pride myself in almost always playing just women underdogs. And I don't know. The more I watched it, the more I was like, you know what, just do it. Like, just bet her. Because I will say this. I think at range, Elise Reed might give her some problems. She's going to have a reach advantage, and she does throw straight. She throws down the pipe. I don't think it's going to be super clean for Loma in the beginning. But as soon as she gets it to the clinch, as soon as she gets it down on the ground, then it's her wheelhouse. Like, it's all her. She made a lot of stupid decisions in her last fight, but the woman had submission upside. Elise Reed does not. She's not going to be scrambling like that on the ground. So if she can't like just pick apart Loma, I don't see her winning. And because I don't think she's going to pick apart Loma, I had to play her. I took her for only 2 units money line. I didn't feel right putting anything more than that. And I did the KO props. So that's me. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, I'm on the same train as you guys. Loma Lookboonmee, I parlayed her up at minus 265 with somebody else on the card. And yeah, I mean, Elise Reed, like, she had success in her last fight over a debuting girl, as did Lookboonmee. But Elise Reed, like, both of her wins in the UFC, she pretty much could have lost that fight if, like, Corey McKenna just needed to wrestle. Corey McKenna had to play, like, the last minute of each round at the beginning of the fight instead of at the end of the round. She would have won that fight, employed her wrestling, but that was a big mistake. The last fight with Elise Reed against Melissa Martinez, I mean, into the third round, she was going to lose that fight if it wasn't for Martinez, like, tripping on herself and falling, onto the bottom position for the last, like, 2 minutes of the fight. So these are spots where Elise Reed just got by. And although she looks like she's got some renewed confidence, she does have a nice, strong, right cross, which she dropped Martinez with. I just feel like she might come in here with a little bit of renewed confidence and just get beaten up on the striking by Lookboonmee. So I like the clinch work from Lookboonmee. She's gotten takedowns in, like, 4 of her 5 UFC fights or 5 of her 6 UFC fights, whichever it is. I just think she's better everywhere here, even though she's at a bit of a size disadvantage as usual. She knows how to work around that. So give me Lookboonmee pretty confidently.
Lucrative, you going to make us 4 for 4 again, or are you on the dog?
Yeah, 4 for 4 and 3 for 3 in fights. We haven't disagreed yet, but there's a lot of fights to go, so I'm sure we will. I think Lookboonmee is the clear favorite here. You know, I think she's favorite for a reason. She should be able to win on the feet. She should be able to win in the clinch, and she should be able to win on the ground. You know, Elise Reed doesn't pose any wrestling threat. If you want to bet against Loma Lookboonmee, usually you want a fighter who has good wrestling. You know, I remember I played quite a big bet on Lupi Godinez against her because I knew Lupi was really strong and she's just going to go to the wrestling. And even that was a little bit closer than I would like. You know, Loma showed good takedown defense and stuff. So she's improving. You know, that's something that a lot of people speak about, which is completely correct. She's improving. She's getting stronger. She's always putting videos out there in Thailand doing squats and stuff like that. I think she knows because she was coming up from atom weight as a small Muay Thai fighter. She's put some weight on now. She's getting stronger. I think this is a good fight for her. I do agree that, you know, there will be points where the fight is close, you know, like you said, Mike, because in range, Loma, she's at a reach disadvantage. I don't think she does so much to cleanly win the minutes, but this is an MMA fight. At some point, they're going to be in a clinch. Loma's going to step forward. Loma's going to be teeping her. And then when they do get in range, I think Loma can dominate from the clinch, elbows. I think she's going to trip her a lot in this fight. She's going to sweep her, Muay Thai sweep her. If she's smart, after she sweeps her, she'll go into her guard because I think she can keep her down for a minute or two. But, you know, she might be Loma and just walk away like a Muay Thai fighter because she does that a few times. But overall, I feel like this is, you know, one of the safer spots on the card. I'm taking her to win, probably by decision.
All right, 4 for 4 once again. And honestly, I don't know if we're going to have disagreement on this next one, but we've got Jack Jenkins versus Don Shainis. Jenkins is 10-2-0. He's 29 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. And I'm going to be going with their Tapology camps. He's at Absolute MMA and Conditioning. Shainis is 12-4-0. He's 31 years old, 2 years older, giving up 1 inch in height and 1 inch in reach. And for him, I know he was at Glory. Now that it's like torn apart, I don't know what's happening with him. It says Citadel MMA, so we're going to go with that. And Pat, why don't you start us off, man?
Yeah, this is a spot where I do like Jack Jenkins quite a bit. One of my more confident picks in the card over Don Shainis, who Don Shainis made his debut already, although it only lasted 30 seconds before he got got choked out. So, I mean, it's just a spot where the game is so complete from Jack Jenkins at this point, especially compared to Don Shainis, who I think is more of like a limited wrestle boxer. He swings really wildly, limited level of competition, usually needs to get the fight to the ground to employ ground and pound and wins that way. Jack Jenkins, nasty leg kicks, solid boxing, a good level change, like a well-timed, takedown. I just think he's going to win this fight and probably win it inside the distance. You see both guys being pretty potent finishers. Don Shainis not really making it to the scorecards. And even against low-level guys, he's like 2-2 in decisions. So I think it's a good spot for Jack Jenkins to probably end this fight, maybe by ground and pound or something of that sort. So I have Jack parlayed up with somebody else later on the card as well. I do have 2 parlays on this card. I'm getting a little crazy. I've been off of parlays for a while, but I'm breaking them back out for this card.
Dude, I've been so good with not doing parlays, and
yeah,
I have a lot
helping out. It's helping out, but I've
got a lot here. Lucrative. What are you thinking for this fight, brother?
Yeah, I got to go with exactly the same thing as you boys said again. Jack Jenkins is clearly the better fighter here. Decent prospect coming in off Dana White's Contender Series. Seems pretty well-rounded. I actually think Don Shainis is one of the worst fighters I've seen in a long, long time. I really, really do not rate him whatsoever. I bet the under 1.5 rounds on his fight versus Yusuf coming in, and that was under 31 seconds, So I wasn't surprised when that happened. A lot of people were saying that, Shainis is tough. He's got good wrestling, and I honestly don't see it at all, man. I think he's really, really bad. Like, I think he's nowhere near UFC level, and I think Jack Jenkins is going to expose him. I actually think Jack Jenkins can finish it whenever he wants. It might even be like a finish inside 2-3 minutes, The over 1.5 is set. A lot of people are playing the over. I wouldn't be so sure in that, man. I honestly think Jenkins can end it whenever he wants. He is more of a grinder, in my opinion. Like, he's not, he doesn't hit super hard. He's more of a wear you down type fighter. But I think Jack Jenkins is as close to a lock as you're going to get in an MMA fight this weekend. And I think he wins inside the distance.
All right. Wiz, how about you?
4 for 4. Yeah,
3
I
for
mean, you
3.
guys
I didn't
broke
go
it
yet.
down. Yeah, 3 for 3, but I kind of know where your head's at. We spoke about not specifically the fight itself, but a specific prop. But yeah, Jenkins making his debut after a knockout win on the Contender Series. Shainis, in my opinion, he's a madman who goes for takedowns early and tries to go for it early, but he'll tend to gas out as the fight goes on, if it does tend to go on. And I think Jenkins will just have to weather the storm early, if there is any, to be honest, because I think Jenkins is going to be able to outmatch him from the get-go. But the only success I see for Shainis is that round 1. Jenkins is the hometown prospect here, and I just don't think the UFC is trying to bring in Shainis to defeat a hometown kid who shined pretty well on the Contender Series. So give me Jenkins. Jenkins inside the distance is good. I haven't bet anything on him yet, but I'm close to getting to the window with him.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have disagreement on the side, but I have a little bit disagreement in terms of how the fight's going to go and the over. So one of my favorite plays, honestly, on this card is the over 1.5 here. I like it quite a bit, just because while I don't think Shainis is anything like UFC caliber or anything like that, he's never even going to touch top 30 in my opinion, maybe even worse than that. But I do think he's tough. I think that Sadiq Yusuff is a different animal from Jenkins. Like Sadiq Yusuff is a UFC caliber guy who's very talented, beating high level dudes. And that was just a mismatch. And while I do think Jenkins is going to be significantly better in pretty much every aspect in this fight, I think that he's not going to finish Shainis as quick. And you look at his record, right? You look at his Contender Series fight against Linares there. Took him 3 rounds to get that finish. In my opinion, you know, Linares versus Shainis might be a good fight, actually. I can't tell you who's better. But I think that Shainis, with his grappling, even the take, like, I don't necessarily mean offensive, right? I don't necessarily see him taking down Jenkins, but he scrambles really well. He's not going to get submitted here, I don't think. I don't really see a ground and pound TKO. He's going to be always moving on the ground, always trying to get up. So, you know, I like Jenkins, obviously. I parlayed him as well with 2 guys I'm going to talk about later in separate ones. I don't really do 3-piece parlays, but I think the over. I like the over here. So I played it for 1.5 units. I did 1 unit at like minus 140, and then I did minus 145 and another half unit at minus 150. So I do like that spot, but let's see. But we are all on Jenkins once again, 4 for 4. Let's see if anything change. Again, maybe it won't change here. We've got Jamie Mullarkey versus Francisco Prado. Mullarkey is 15-5-0. He's 28 years old, 6 feet tall with the 74-inch reach, training out of, I believe, City Kickboxing. Prado is 11-0, undefeated as a professional. He's 20 years old, which is really crazy, honestly. 5'10", giving up 2 inches in height. He's going to be giving up 3 inches in reach. And for his camp, it says Alpha Team, but I think it's something else. I'm going to let our guest talk while I look it up, and I'll mention it if it's different later. But Lucrative, why don't you start us off, brother?
Yeah, so if you look at this Prado fella's tape, he is a bit of a wild man. You know, he comes out heavy in that first round. He throws spinning wheel kicks. He throws heavy punches. It looks like he hits pretty hard, man. But it's always hard to judge how hard they hit on the regional scene, especially at the lighter weights. You know, if you're knocking everyone out at heavyweight, you can definitely knock everyone out at heavyweight in the UFC just because they're so big, right? But when it comes to these lighter weights, they're knocking everyone out on the regional scene, and then it just doesn't translate to the UFC level. So I don't know if his hands are that heavy or it just looks like that because he's fighting poor fighters. I don't think he's a great fighter, honestly. I think he's just extremely game. I mean, I've seen him grappled multiple times. You know, I've seen him taken down, but he never stops fighting. He always tries to work for position. And if he does get up from being taken down, he's going to make you pay for taking him down, right? But he's coming up here as a 21-year-old, or I think you said 20. I thought he was 21, but he's coming up here as a young kid, right? And he's fighting Jamie Mullarkey, who's a UFC veteran at this point. I mean, he's had 5 or 6 UFC fights against good guys. You're talking Michael Johnson, split decisions against Michael Johnson, who we just saw beat the Akasi, you know, who was on the rise. Everyone thought he was the next coming of Khabib or what it was. So he's been fighting at a good level. I think Mullarkey back in the day wasn't that good. Like, he fought one of my training partners when I lived in Australia. And what I noticed in that fight was like the same thing I noticed now, but he's just worse now. He just grinds you. He takes you down. That's what he did to my training partner. Took him down, elbowed him in the face, very dirty, like putting his head on my training partner's head, squashing it, just like playground bully type stuff, man. And in the octagon, that really wears your opponent down. And if you're a 21-year-old kid making your debut in this guy's home turf, I don't think it's going to go well for Prado, man. I see Mullarkey getting cracked early because everyone cracks him and he loves a brawl. So I do think there is some scope for Prado to get an early knockout, right? But I don't think it's likely. I think Prado's going to catch him a couple of times. Mullarkey's going to realize, like, this kid's pretty quick. He hits pretty hard. Let me just take this motherfucker down. I think he's going to take him down. I think he's going to dominate from top position. And I think he's going to make Prado quit. I think he's just going to put the pace on him. And I do think he's going to finish him from top position. I reckon round 2. I see Jamie Mullarkey's submission at about plus 1,000 right now. And I know he doesn't go for that many submissions. I know he doesn't have that many submissions on his record. He's more of a ground and pound guy. But I think this fight's definitely going to go to the grappling. I also feel like Prado's not that good in the grappling. So anytime you're giving me plus 1,000 on a fight that I think will go to the grappling, with the fighter I think will finish the fight, it's definitely an auto bet for me. I'm not going to play much on it, but my prediction is Jamie Mullarkey in round 2 by TKO ground and pound.
All right. How about you, Wiz?
Yeah, in this fight, obviously we mentioned that Prado's coming in on short notice, 20 years old, fairly green. One thing also to mention is all of his wins have come by the way of finish. He hasn't fought the best of competition, but he does carry some power. But Mullarkey, in my opinion, is just no joke. Super hittable. Both these guys are super hittable when it comes to striking. But the cardio for me with Prado is a little suspect, just given that he's finished all of his fights so early. And I think Mullarkey should be able to come out here and win inside the distance. But the one fear for me is the power in Prado's hands. I think he can shut Mullarkey down with a couple of these shots because we mentioned that he's hittable and his chin isn't the best. We've seen him knocked down in a lot of his fights. We never know when the chin starts to give up. But as your UFC run continues and you continue to get down in fights, it's a little suspect to me. So I don't think Mullarkey should. I think the price is somewhat warranted, but also I would not be comfortable laying him in a parlay or as a favorite, just straight up because of that chin liability. Because as we saw last week with Robocop going up against Bruno Ferreira, I know it's a completely different matchup here, but anything can happen, especially to a guy who's had chin liability in the past. So I think the under 2.5 is my best bet in this fight. Am I going to take it? Probably, but I'm not pulled the trigger yet.
Yeah, I already played it. I played the under 2.5. I got it relatively early. I got it at minus 130 for a unit. Somebody asked me why I didn't put more, and it's a good question. I just don't like trusting because when you play overs or unders, you're not just trusting fighters, you're also trusting these referees. And depending on the ref, it's going to be a completely different outcome. You can get that ITD or you can end up getting screwed. Like, it just completely depends on the ref as well. So putting more than a unit and a half, I don't love doing, but I do like the under quite a bit. I think that Prado's winning condition here is catching Mullarkey probably early, like you guys said. And I think that Mullarkey, I mean, he could grind out a decision if he had to, but I think he's going to finish him too. He hits like a train. He's a very good striker, good output. I believe James said this, like, he does get rocked constantly for no good reason. But like, I was watching Prado and I kind of expected more from him. I didn't like the striking. I thought the only thing he really did that like pretty well was the offensive wrestling, but his takedown defense sucks too. So if Mullarkey for some reason is uncomfortable on the feet, I think he can just take it to the ground and do his thing. So I like Mullarkey. I parlayed him just a little bit, one unit with somebody else I'll talk about, but the under is my main thing here. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, I'm with the under 2.5 as well. Minus 155 is where I got that at. I paid that price to win 1 unit in return. And yeah, it's pretty much a combination of what you guys have mentioned so far. Like, Mullarkey, I think, warrants this price tag, but I don't want anything to do with it, to be honest. Like, I get that he's got all the experience, 3-3 in the UFC, decent competition, more likely to go to the scorecards and actually win this fight than, you know, the guy who's never been there before in Prado on short notice, 20 years old. So I think there's going to be a point early in round 1 where Mullarkey does not look like a minus 270 favorite. He gets rocked, he gets cracked, he's in danger, wobbly legs, but I think he's got the more complete game. He can clinch up, take this fight to the mat, and like James said, I think it ends up in round 2. Probably a TKO stoppage for Mullarkey. So my only play here is covering both sides, the under 2.5. Like I mentioned, minus 155. I like that spot quite a bit here.
All right. For this next one, we're going to be talking about a spot that I like a lot, honestly. We've got Kleydson Rodrigues versus Shannon Ross. Kleydson is 7-2-0. He's 27 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach, training out of Team Nogueira. Ross on the other side, he's 13-6-0, 33 years old. He's going to be 6 years older, same height, giving up 1 inch in reach, training out of Potential Unlimited MMA. So I believe it's Wiz's turn. Why don't you start us off, man?
Yeah, I think this is a setup fight for Kleydson. Ross is making his debut here at 34 years old, which is very old. And not to mention making his debut after he lost on the Contender Series as a favorite to Vinicius Salvador. He got absolutely popped up until the ref stepped in. I think Kleydson is going to outmatch him on the feet here. Mixes up his strikes really well, especially with the kicks. His kicking game is phenomenal. And Ross leaves a lot of openings on the feet to be hit, can get finished. I think Kleydson Rodrigues is going to win this fight at the distance by knockout. He has 3 wins by knockout, and I think he gets the 4th here. I will be parlaying Kleydson up. I will be taking Kleydson inside the distance. Even Kleydson has given us a little bit to worry about in his past couple of fights. This guy, Shannon Ross, should not be in the UFC, with all due respect. And there is a lot of room for him to get finished. There's a lot of holes in the game. So give me Kleydson inside the distance.
Yeah, so I did a lot of Contender Series stuff. I was trying to put out content for all of the fights, and I faded the hell out of Ross. I could not understand that line. I faded him, cashed, and again, like Wiz said, I don't know what he's even doing here. Not only did he lose, he got knocked down 3 times and then got finished. Like, I don't know what he's doing here. But in terms of the matchup, I just think Rodrigues at range is going to beat him up. In the pocket, maybe Ross has a chance. I don't think so. I still think it's Rodrigues. I think Rodrigues can also go to the grappling. I do know that Ross, he defended 1 takedown against Salvador, so it says 100% on his UFC stats. But just go look at the Donovan Freelo fight. Freelo is decent, but he just took him right down and finished him relatively quickly. So I don't think Ross really stands much of a chance. I know a lot of people are hesitant on Kleydson because of his last fight against Vergara. I took Vergara there. I honestly still think he lost, to be completely honest. I think I got a good spot. But I think there's a difference between Vergara and Ross. I think Vergara would beat up Ross too. Like, he's much more physical. He's much stronger. And I just don't see Ross replicating that pressure that he was using to win the fight. So I like Kleydson quite a bit. I played him relatively early, minus 187. I hit that as much as I could because I really I thought that was way off. I think right now at minus 300 or so, we're much closer to what it should be. So I'm on Kleydson. Got him early at this price. You can't really lay the money line here. It's just too much. But if you wanted to parlay him, I wouldn't hate it. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, I think people are hesitant because it was about the same money line or more last time for Kleydson Rodrigues over Vergara, and he, shit the bed. Probably won the fight, but made it way too close. Certainly did not cover the price tag he was at. So I'm staying off of that staying off of this fight for that reason. But I'm very confident in Rodrigues here. Got the better Muay Thai. He's got just a better timing and power. There's some durability questions from Shannon Ross, and the grappling is just night and day in my opinion. So. The money line makes sense to me for the most part, but I'd look towards the unders for this if you get a better line on the unders, because I think Rodrigues can probably finish this inside the distance, but it's a flyweight fight, so I'm hesitant for that too. So just a pass spot for me. I don't have any action on this fight, but I think Rodrigues gets this done some way inside the distance. He's just better everywhere.
Lucrative. We going 4 for 4 again? Exactly
the same, man. You can just copy and paste Pat's breakdown and put it into my segment because I think Kleidson's going to finish this fight. He's a much better fighter, Shannon Ross isn't that good. He's there to be hit. The one thing I will say is Shannon Ross will come forward. He will put a pace on. He will put a pressure on. Kleydson didn't like it that much last time. But Kleydson still won that fight, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's saying there was a terrible performance and he was so bad. And no, he had a split decision loss where in a fight I thought he won. You know, in my opinion, he should still be undefeated in the UFC. So it wasn't that bad of a performance. It was just bad compared to his minus 350 line or whatever it was, right? But CJ is a tough guy. He's going to keep coming forward. He's going to push you. He's going to pressure you. It's not an easy debut to make. So I think he's going to learn from that. I think he's going to adjust from that. And I think that's going to pay dividends in this fight. I do see him getting a finish at some point. Shannon Ross looks kind of chinny to me. I don't even know why he's in the UFC. They didn't sign him off a loss on that night, did they? Did they just bring him in for this fight?
Yeah, just this fight.
Is it short notice or something? Like, why are they bringing him in?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. It's why? Why are they bringing him in?
Is he short notice? Actually, let me check.
I don't think
I don't
so.
know
I don't
if
believe
it's.
he's short notice.
He's not.
So it's not short notice. It's just strange, right? I guess he's. I think he's from Australia as well. So they're putting him on the card, but they're building up Kleydson here. You know what I mean? And I don't pay much stock into that. Like, I do the tape and I decide who I think's going to win. I don't care who the UFC thinks going to win, but it is just another little booster when you're backing the guys. So I think Rodrigues probably finishes the fight in the second round or something.
What do you guys think about that line on the prop for Kleydson inside the distance, around even money, plus 100 or so, maybe a little bit better on some books? What do you think about that as a whole?
I took the under 2.5 about 3 or 4 days ago. I think I got like plus 110, plus 120. So,
yeah. So you might as well, right?
Yeah, MMA is crazy, man. You never know. He might break a toenail or something, and then the fight gets called off. So I always like playing the under as opposed to fighter inside the distance if they're that close.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Yeah, it's very close. The fight doesn't go the distance, like minus 145, under 2.5, minus 110. So pick up price tag. It's probably the way to go.
So I just wanted to bring in a comment. Prince of Mischief. Yeah, I spoke about this yesterday. I know he's been saying he was injured.
Yeah.
Then why does he look like crap in all his other fights too? Was he injured every time he fought?
Maybe.
Like, let's not pretend like he just looked like a stud on the regionals. He did not. He didn't. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to play much, but I also liked this that Prince of Mischief brought up. Apparently, every flyweight fight in 23 has ended in under 2.5, 4 fights. Could happen here too. I think it's a decent spot, Pat. I do.
Hopefully.
Just going after the comment, the MMA Jesus, the latest comment, saying Salvador would KO at Rodrigues. I disagree with that completely. Salvador, striking defense, one thing is just horrible, and the punches this guy throws, he just wings shots. Like, he's not technical at all. I think Kleydson would piece him up.
Yeah, I appreciate you, MMA Jesus, for being here, but that's a crazy comment, man. But all right, we can move on to the next fight we've got. This is a close one. Probably our best chance to disagree. We've got Joshua Culibao versus Melsik Baghdasaryan. Culibao is 10-1-0. He's 28 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. And I'm going to have to go with Tapology with Igor MMA. I know at some point he trained with Volkanovski. I don't think it was recently. Melsik, he's 7-1-0, 31 years old, 3 years older, 5'9". He's 1 inch shorter, giving up 3 inches in reach. And I believe he's still training at Glendale with, I forget his name, but the guy who kind of ruins fighters. Who went first? Remind me, who went first last time, guys?
Don't know.
Wiz? Maybe Wiz.
Okay, we'll pretend it was Wiz. Pat, start us off.
All right. Josh Culibao, Melsik Baghdasaryan. This is kind of the fight that everybody is split on, as far as the community goes, from what I've seen. And the money line reflects it, right? It's a pick and price tag. Again, it's one of these fights where I don't have the biggest read on this fight, not the most confidence in either guy here. I'm taking Melsik Baghdasaryan just because I think Culibao will do what he normally does and allow his opponent to take the center of the octagon and kind of dictate the pace, and try to counter strike. And in a couple of fights, that's worked out for Culibao, right? He was able to win some big moments against Charles Jourdain, which happens to Jourdain a lot. He was able to really best the moments in the stand-up with the bigger moments against Sung Woo Choi, who's more of like a brawler type of fighter, as we've seen. But I just feel like his skill set's a little bit limited in that regard. He's not really successful with any of the wrestling exchanges, which I think would be a good path in this fight against like a more of a wide stance, in and out karate style fighter like Melsik. But I think Melsik can just be the cleaner, more technical man here and just win moments and probably win a decision. So I know Melsik I think he's finished like 5 of his 7 fights, a lot of them like within the first couple minutes of the match. I'm not sure if that happens against Culibao here, but I could see this going later and probably just more points on the board for Baghdasaryan. But no plays on this for me. I'm not very confident.
All right, one Melsik, lucrative. How about you, man?
So first disagreement of the podcast, I think, because I'm going to go with
Nice, here we
Joshua Culibao. He's a good fighter. He's coming out from Australia. I think he trains at Eagle MMA. I actually used to live right next to Eagle MMA. It was like 30 seconds from my house when I lived in Sydney. I think he still trains there. Not really known as like a massive gym in Sydney, but I think it's a lot bigger now than when I lived there. He looks like a good fighter, he came in against Jalen Turner, upper weight division, and I actually thought he might pull it off there. I went to that card. That was the card in Auckland, Dan Hooker, Paul Felder. And I went to that, and he just got absolutely dominated by Jalen Turner. And I think I put like some money on him as like a plus 300 or something, and he kind of made me look bad there. But then he came back down to his rightful weight class, 145, and just looked a lot better, a lot sharper. And since then, he's gone on a really good run. I feel like he's a completely different striker than Melsik. Melsik looks a lot more traditional, likes to bounce on the outside, with the karate, but then he comes in with those strong, those very fast head kicks, right? Whereas Joshua likes to bounce on the outside. He'll switch stances, and he'll throw some strange punches like looping punches, looping uppercuts, stuff that you don't really see coming. I think that could benefit him here. I think also if anybody's getting the grappling going, it will be Josh. He does shoot takedowns, doesn't really land them, but he does shoot them. And, that's just like another bee in his bonnet, right? Something else he's going to do in the fight. So I think he's got the grappling upside, the clinch upside, and I think he's got better cardio than Melsik. I still think Melsik has a bad gas tank. We just really haven't seen it because no one has pushed him that much. But I think in this fight, Joshua is going to push him enough to where Melsik gasses out. So for those reasons, I'm taking Joshua Culibao for the win, probably by decision.
All right, Wiz.
Let's get 2-1. I think Culibao is the rightful side here. Big power, as we've seen, explosive, and has some really solid boxing. And when he catches your chin, you're getting hurt. People are getting hurt. He's faced some serious competition, not to mention faced the like Jourdain, Choi, Shailan, going against the competition that Melsik has faced. You can't even compare it. And if he can find a way to mix in the downs, I think he wins this fight pretty convincingly. I will be placing a moneyline bet on Joshua Culibao, and I'll be placing a little bit of a sprinkle on the inside the distance at plus 290 currently on Bet Online. I think he's going to be able to out-volume Melsik as the fight goes longer, and I think a late finish is in the books for Culibao here. Probably a ground and pound finish is what I'm predicting. But very accurate striker is Baghdasaryan. Really good kicking game. The one I think he's the edge here. You don't want to get kicked by Melsik Baghdasaryan too many times because it only takes a couple of those kicks to severely hinder that leg. So I think Culibao has to be darting in and out, and he has the pace to do it. The one worry I have for Culibao as well is his cardio doesn't seem to hold up too much, but it doesn't really affect his fighting style, surprisingly, which makes me back him a little bit more. So give me Culibao, sprinkle on the inside of the distance as well. He is the hometown prospect here too, so everything's a little for me.
I'm going to make it 2-2. I'm on Melsik here. And so first off, real quick, in terms of James mentioned the takedowns and like Culibao attempting them, I just want to say he attempted 7 on Jourdain, got 0, and Jourdain has a 48% takedown defense. So, he might shoot, but I don't really see it working. And because I think it's on the feet, because of the way we've seen judging, right? What have they really been judging lately? Damage. And who's going to land them way more damaging shots here? In my opinion, it's going to be Melsik. And one thing I did like about him is that you look at a guy like him, you look at his power, the way he's always throwing. He's got the better output here. he doesn't necessarily slow down all that much in round 3. He's still throwing. He's got a good output. So if I believe we're going to be on the feet, which I do, I have to favor Melsik here. He's got that kickboxing background as well. And Culibao has been great. He's been surprising me. I think I faded him every single time. So obviously that has not gone well for me. But hopefully this time it does. I played Melsik at minus 105 for, I believe, just one unit, 1.1. So that's me. I do think it'll be close. I just feel like Melsik will land the more effective shots, and I think he's probably going to land more too.
You and Wiz doing another shoey bet this week over that one? You guys both got cash on opposite sides.
Yo, I'm down. Wiz, you down?
Clip it. Let's do this.
All right, there you go.
Just like in real life, I'm an instigator. This is what I do.
Yo, not this time, Wiz. Not this.
Culibao with the short.
All right, here I might be alone here. Let's see. We've got Tyson Pedro versus Modestas Busauskas. Pedro is 9-3-0. He's 31 years old, 6'3" with the 79-inch reach, and I've got him at Lions High Performance Center. Couldn't find anything otherwise on Instagram. Modestas 13-5-0, 29 years old. He's 2 years younger, same height, giving up 1 inch in reach, and I don't have a camp for him either. Going with Jintas Combat and Lucrative. Why don't you start us off, man?
Yeah, it's tough because you got Tyson Pedro, who has only ever won in round 1. Anytime it's got out of round 1, he's lost. And he also did lose in round 1 once upon a time to Vincent Prue. So it's kind of tough to put your money behind the guy who's never won out of round 1, right? Especially at the UFC level. But then we look at his opponent, Modestas Busauskas. Well, actually, is that UFC level? I don't really know. He got cut from the UFC, right? And now he's getting a call back. He's getting flown halfway across the world. He's gonna be suffering from that jet lag. You know, that's something I posted out before. And that's like the elephant in the room for this UFC 284 perf card, right? I'm from London, but I live in New Zealand, right? So right next to Australia. So I've done the trip a couple of times and it's hell. Not the flight. You know, everyone moans about the flight. Whatever. You can do the flight. It is what it is. Just put your head down. But when you get to the country, the destination, in this case, Perth, it takes 2, 3, sometimes even 4 weeks, depending on genetics, how old you are, that sort of stuff, to feel right, to feel yourself. So these fighters, some of them are arriving last week, you know, or a few days ago. They're not going to feel good, you know. So coming over from the UK, I don't know when he came over, but he didn't come over long ago because he only had a fight in the UK 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, right? So he had that fourth round win where he's actually losing a lot of that fight in Cage Warriors, and then he's coming in. So I think it's going to be a tough ask, man, going up against Tyson Pedro. Tyson Pedro is way quicker. I think he hits harder. I think Modestas Busauskas is really flat-footed. One of my mates is the main training partner of Tyson Pedro, and I asked him, how's the camp going? What do you think of this fight and stuff? He did tape on the Busauskas guy, and he said, I think Tyson's going to knock him out in round 1. He says that, you know, he's too flat-footed, Busauskas. He's there to be hit, and he is. Busauskas is one of those, I agree with it, you know. Busauskas is one of these fighters where he's a comeback fighter. He just lets you do what you want, and then he mounts a comeback. If he lets Tyson do what Tyson wants, in my opinion, he's not going to be there to come back. He's going to get knocked out like he did in the Khalil fight or he did in the, Crute fight. Now, on the other hand, one of my favorite things to do in MMA is fade these big hype prospects that have never been out of round 1, right? So when I saw plus 200 on Busauskas, I really want to do it. I'm picking Busauskas to get knocked out. Tyson Pedro, I think he's going to knock him out, or he could submit him. Tyson has a really good grappling game, so I do think he's definitely live for a submission. I'm looking at Tyson Pedro round 1 plus 250, but I'm also looking at Busauskas money line at plus 200 because I just think if it gets after 7 or 8 minutes, I'm pretty sure the tide's going to turn in Modestas' way, you know. And he's built a career off coming back. That's how he's won the belt at Cage Warriors. He comes back. He did it against Matt Hamills 5 years ago. You know, that is his style. So I'm going to pick Tyson Pedro to win in round 1, but I'm eyeing that bet up and I'm eyeing the Busauskas money line up. So I don't hate anyone taking a shot on Busauskas at plus 200. But yeah, my prediction will be Tyson round 1.
When it's my turn, James, I'm going to do my best to pitch you on Modestas. Wiz, what are you thinking?
All right.
Yeah, I really want reasons to bet Modestas here, but a couple of things are talking me off. Obviously, the flight from Lithuania all the way to Perth, as James mentioned, is no joke. And then you look at that he just fought just a couple weeks ago, so a little bit of a fatigue spot does come into factor here. But then the biggest thing out of everything is this is on short notice. A lot of people are forgetting to mention this is on short notice. Now, for this type of price, just about plus 200, I don't want to take the shot here just because of all these factors. If it was a full camp on a full rest after that fight, then I would definitely be taking the plus money on Modestas here. I'm not saying I'm taking Tyson Pedro, but I'm just not going to be putting my money or investing my money in this fight. I think, as James mentioned, Tyson Pedro does not want to fight in the that left the first round. And I think his cardio will fail after that first round to a round and a half, if it does get there. But it's a big step up in competition for him. I think Busauskas can outpace him and play this first round safe, as long as he's not flat-footed as he usually is. If he fixes that up, he's been knocked out before, so that's the one worry I have for Busauskas. He's been 4 times, and in the first round specifically, by people who don't really belong in the UFC. So what makes me think different that Tyson Pedro won't be able to chin this guy? Ultimate prediction here is going to be Tyson Pedro round 1 knockout, as James mentioned. I agree there. But if this was a full camp, I'm definitely taking the stab on Modestas. But just can't get to the window due to the factors that I've mentioned.
All right, let's do this. So before I start, I think the best point against Modestas is what James was saying. The flight, the what's it called again? When you can't sleep, jet lag. There you go. Thank you. The jet lag. I do think that's going to play a factor. That said, let's go over Pedro's last 5 fights in the UFC. Yeah, Harry Hunsucker, Modestas kills him. Ike Villanueva, Modestas kills him. Mauricio Rua, in what was it, 2018? Not that great either. OSP in 2018, maybe a little bit better. Saperbeg Safarov, Modestas kills him. So none of that really tells me, oh, he's dominating high-level people. He's not. And like, he doesn't even have a high-level win other than Paul Craig, I guess, and Khalil Roundtree, if you want to call him high-level. Now, maybe that's hypocritical, right? Roundtree destroyed Modestas' leg. I think that's different. Like, Pedro is not Roundtree. They don't fight the same. It's a completely different fight. He doesn't use kicks like that. He doesn't hit oblique kicks. He doesn't have that same kind of power, in my opinion. Pedro's striking is good, but I don't think it's anything crazy. If he uses his grappling, I think he has a path, but Modestas has shown 100% takedown defense, and even in his 2 latest Cage Warrior fights, he might not have looked amazing, but his takedown defense was on point. He did not get taken down. So we're talking about 6 fights now. He hasn't been taken down once. Takedown defense is there. And then let's talk about the Pedro never leaving round 1 pretty much. That's going to be really relevant. I don't see him finishing Modestas in round 1 like he did against Ike. I don't see him finishing him like he did against Harry Hunsucker. I know Hunsucker is the greatest of all time, but a different fight, different breakdown. I just think that unless Modestas does get sparked early, which I don't really see happening. Who was the one who did that? It was Jimmy Crute. I guess you could make an argument. Crute, Pedro, very similar fighters. I think at this point, Crute is a little bit better, even in the striking. So at plus 200, I think I got plus 217, something like that. I woke up that day late. I completely missed a plus 700. I'm sure the limits were terrible, but if I got plus 700, I would have put whatever I could on there. Plus 217 is what I got. 216 is what I got. I played it for a unit. I just think that as long as Pedro doesn't get an early finish, Modestas is going to pick up the pace. I don't see, like, it's kind of an unknown, right? We don't know what Pedro is going to look like after round 1. We can't just say, like, for sure, because he hasn't gone over it, he's not going to have the cardio. He might. He was out for a minute before he came back against Villanueva and Hunsucker. But because I haven't seen it, I can't bank on that. I definitely don't like him as a favorite. I don't suggest parlaying him, even if you don't want to play Modestas. but I like Modestas here. I think if he extends it, it's all him. And I've been trying to get away from the round props. I did my recap for the first time this past year, and I went back to the Bet MMA like statistics and everything, and I've lost 31 units on round props. And that's a lot considering I only play 1/10 of a unit every time. So once I saw that, I was like, all right, dude, we're done. Maybe in certain spots, but that's it. And this is one of those certain spots. I did it last week too. I did Tybura by sub in round 3. I did like a 20th of a unit. It was like nothing, but we got close. We got close there. But all right, Pat, what are you thinking for this one? I'll stop talking.
Yeah, I'm like in between Wiz and Lucrative and you. Like I did play a half of a unit on Busauskas, mostly for the money line. I could see Tyson Pedro in the first half of the first round, knocking out Busauskas. Like that's a big possibility. I mean, it's a guy who got cut for going 1-3 in the UFC. He's back now. But Tyson Pedro is one of these guys where things are going extremely well for him, or the tides turn very quickly, sometimes within the course of one round, right? The OSP fight, he was doing extremely well, and then the tides turned. He got armbarred, within one round. And we're going back quite a bit, like you pointed out, Mike, before we see a meaningful win from Tyson Pedro. It's been a long, long time. So, I mean, what does the Ike Villanueva, what does the Harry Huntsucker win really tell me in round 1? Not too much. So I'm pretty much banking on plus 205 at a half of a unit that Busauskas can extend this out. I think he's the better point fighter. I think he's the better technical striker. Tyson Pedro might come in here with that confidence of this momentum now and start him in round 1. That could happen. But just because the money line is so askew from where I think the value is, I got to take Busauskas for at least a half of a unit. So that's where I'm at. But there is a very good possibility he gets knocked out in round 1.
So we're 2 for 2 now in fights in pairs. Let's see what team wins. Me or Pat versus Wiz and Lucrative. For this next one, we've got Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menifield. Crute is 12-3-0, 26 years old, 6'2" with a 74-inch reach. And I know he's training with Rob now, at least based off of his Instagram. Sorry about the noise. I live in New York. Menifield, he's 13-3-0, 35 years old. He's going to be 9 years older, giving up 2 inches in height, but he does have a 2-inch reach advantage, training out of Fortis MMA. Wiz, what do you think, man?
I really like the under in this fight. I think both these guys have a chin liability. Both these guys have no problem going berserk early and winging heavies. Crute is pretty talented when it comes to the grappling, but the IQ is very questionable at times. Same with Alonzo. Super talented on the mat, and I think he has decent strike. But coming off of the layoff with the surgery and the way he just collapsed, that chin check was just ridiculous. I think Menifield has solid enough takedown defense to keep this on the feet, and if it stays on the feet, I believe it's a pure coin flip. So don't blame anyone that's going to be taking a dog shot on Alonzo Menifield here. If I wanted to bet on money line side, I would be betting Alonzo as well. But ultimately, look to the unders, and Menifield is my money line side.
Yeah, so I'm like I think Crute wins. I did like one parlay with him, but that's it. And God damn it. And pretty much his only thing, like skill for skill, he should dominate here. He should. I think on the feet, he's more technical. And on the ground, I mean, it's all him. I know that Menifield has 85% takedown defense, right? But against who? Let's look at it. Serkinov, which would be good. And Serkinov, I believe, shot like 5 times, I think, 4 times. So that's decent. But Serkinov also looks like shit recently. Mozarov, who completely made up his record. Wiz has a dope interview with him. Make sure you watch that. William Knight. I mean, William Knight gets takedowns, but let's be real here. The guy is not a technical man at all. At Herman, Charant, OSP, Clark got 1 takedown. That's pretty impressive. We just saw Clark dominate. Paul Craig doesn't shoot. Vinicius Moreira is garbage. Deshaun Boatwright and Daniel Jolly. So he hasn't really faced an amazing wrestler. The best one was Clark. And I just think Crute should win. But I don't feel confident going too hard on him because he's an idiot. He's just a damn idiot. Like, how did you see the wrestling against Smith? It was so good with a messed up leg, with one leg. He was such a good wrestler. Why? Why did you stand for so long? When you got hit the first few times, why? Just not good. fight IQ. And then the Jamal Hill fight, one of the worst bets I've ever made, just got his head knocked off. Yeah. I mean, I'm on Crute with very, very low confidence. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, I'm on him with a little bit more confidence than you. Like, forgive the one against the current champion, Jamal Hill. Like, there was not enough time for things to really get going in his favor, especially if he wanted to use the grappling. That was like less than a minute in. The guy's knocked down already and the fight's over. But yeah, I mean, Menifield is a guy where he can probably win this by knockout under 1.5. Otherwise, the gas thing starts to wane, especially the fight from like a year and a half ago against Ed Herman, who was 40 at the time. The fact that was even like a little bit dicey towards the end because the gas tank of Menifield was fading away. Don't like that at all. And I think Jimmy Crute really is one of the better grapplers out of like the entire division at light heavyweight. It's a shame we don't get a chance to see that more used, but maybe the tides are turning that way because the guy's only 26 years old at this point. He's very young for the weight class. But yeah, just like you, I'm picking him, but a little bit more confidence on my side here, but I'm not getting to the money line on it. I still think that round one is very dangerous. Menifield has the power, but after that, I just think that Jimmy Crute can just work him cardio-wise, grappling-wise, and just win this fight down the stretch. Probably doesn't see the start of round 3. Might be my favorite spot here. You're paying the price for it. It's pretty expensive, but I think that's a good spot. Fight doesn't start round 3. I think both guys should have their moments before then.
All right, lucrative.
Yeah, I think Crute's going to win this fight. I don't think Alonzo's a good fighter. Alonzo's big. He's powerful. He's got decent grappling, but he doesn't have much else to him, I was just looking at Crute by submission, but it's 250. It's not the best. But yeah, man, I think Crute's going to take him down and dominate, really. I think he can even catch him on the feet. I think Menifield has one round of gas, and then he's basically gone after that. If you get through round 1, you're basically going to win the fight, unless you're also a gasser, which Crute isn't. I think Crute can go long. Most of his fights have finished early, but he's young. Like Pat said, man, he's getting better. 26 years old for a light heavyweight is very, very young. If you go back to the defeat against Misha Serkinov, that was quite alarming because he got top position. He basically he had won the fight. He had the fight won, and then somehow he got swept, and then he got put in a submission, right? But you're talking about a 23-year-old kid at that point, like that's 3 years ago. 23-year-old light heavyweight is basically unheard of in MMA. So I'm expecting improvements each time out, unless he's facing someone like Jamal Hill. And even that fight, I feel like they fight again. Jamal Hill probably does him in, but maybe the 3rd or 4th round or something. He just caught him with some beautiful shots there. Crute is a bit of a liability from what we know. He can make some poor decisions. So there's always a worry when you're backing him. But I think he should win this fight. I actually think his upside in the division is quite high, and I think he's gonna hit the top 15 at some point, hit the top 10 at some point in his career. So I'm taking Crute for the win here.
All right, 4 for 4. This next one we might not be. I know a lot of people like the dog here. We got Justin Tafa versus Parker Porter, the GOAT, the guy that has been delaying John Jones's return to the UFC. 5-3-0 for Justin Tafa, 29 years old. He's 6 feet tall with a 74-inch reach. Porter, 13-7-0, 37, 6 years older. Same height, 1-inch reach advantage. And Pat, start us off.
Yeah, another, hard to be confident spot here between these two. I am on the dog, the slight dog. I know the money line's tightened up, and that's why I'm not on this fight. First off, I can't get behind Parker Porter probably with my dollar at this point. I mean, these are 2 low-level heavyweights. But, I mean, the guy that's been to decision and been successful in 3 fights, no matter who they're against, is Parker Porter. Tafa has never won a decision before. He's knockout or bust. And, I don't see, unbelievable power from the guy in the UFC, right? He's going to decision with Carlos Felipe. You know what I mean? Like, he's losing these fights that of guys that are not even in the UFC anymore. So, look, I mean, Harry Hunsucker made him look like the second coming of Mark Hunt. I don't know if that happens again. Maybe that'll be cool. It'll be a fun highlight in his home country. But Parker Porter has a habit of, losing the fight early on, and then he can come back. Like, he's got slightly better cardio for like a giant, out of shape man. So give me Parker Porter. I want to say decision, but again, looking at these guys, and one of these guys have missed the heavyweight limit at a certain point. So how can I believe that this won't see like I want this to end. Like I like the under 2.5 here, but it's one of these fights where it's so low level at heavyweight that they could like gas each other out in round one. Nobody falls over, and then they're just kind of circling, throwing one at a time in slow motion for the next 2 rounds. So it's hard to be confident like an over and under, even a side in the spot. Just complete pass for me. But give me Parker Porter by decision.
All right. How about you, Luca?
Yeah, I got Parker Porter as well. I played him before the last UFC card, so I saw him at plus 120.
Okay.
And then I did the tape quickly, and I thought, yeah, he definitely shouldn't be plus money here. So I bet him, and now he looks like he might close a favorite. So I agree with the line movement. A few things Parker Porter has to his advantage here. He's obviously got more UFC experience. He's got more MMA experience, tons more MMA experience. You say that he was delaying John Jones' return to the UFC, but he lost to John Jones back in the day. Parker Porter.
He let him win, James. He got paid off. He let him win. Come on.
Okay. So John Jones didn't want the rematch, so he wasn't coming back. But I think Parker Porter is going to throw more volume. I think he's got much better cardio. I think if anybody's going to get takedowns, it's going to be Parker Porter. I think whoever's going to win the cage push, I think it's probably going to be Parker Porter. I can trust him with my money to make better decisions in fight. More experience. There's not much more to say about that. I guess the only thing I would say is Tafa definitely has a chance to knock him out early. I think there's like a 20% chance Tafa just lands a big head kick or a punch because Parker Porter walks forward and just eats punches. That's what he does. Doesn't really have defense. So I wouldn't be massively surprised if Tafa, knocks him out early. But if he doesn't knock him out early, I do think Parker should really pull away in round 2 and round 3. I'm not super passionate because obviously it's low level. He is flying over from the USA, whereas Tafa is not. But, at plus 120, it was easy for me to bet him because I feel like you have to make him at least minus 120. You know what I mean? So that's a decent difference. You're talking a 10% difference there already, right? So, yeah, I think Parker Porter should win this fight probably by decision.
All right, Wiz, you on Porter too?
I'm on no one, but here's the way I think. I think it's a pretty binary matchup in a sense where I think it's either going to be Porter decision or Tafa KO. No surprise there. Tafa's the younger fighter here, coming in 8 years younger. Both these guys have been crushing UFC level cans in the fights that they've won. Porter, I think, will be the minute winner here. He'll throw a lot more volume and has the opportunity to get takedowns, as you guys have mentioned. And the one alarming thing is that Vendera beat Justin Tafa, which is it's very worrisome. When you lose to Vendera, it's an automatic red flag. Tafa does have big power, though, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does chin Parker Porter in that first round or first round and a half, because Porter has lost all of his fights by finish for the most part. So it's gonna have to be either Porter decision or Tafa KO. I'm not passionate at all about this fight. I will probably be in the kitchen making some dinner during this one.
All right. I'm on Tafa, but I'm not playing his money line. I thought that the best way to do this was decision no action for him, because I do think if you tell me right now, Mike, it's going 100% the whole fight, 15 minutes, I'm going to tell you Parker probably won that fight. But if you tell me we finish inside the distance, I'm going to be really, really confident that it was Tafa who won. So at minus 150, I thought that was even a little off. BetOnline had it at minus 210. So I saw minus 150, loved it, put 1.5 units down. Can Porter get a finish? I mean, it's MMA. Look at last year. Anything can happen, but I really don't think so. If you're going to do Porter, I think do it by decision. I was just checking it out for you guys. It's a pretty good price, honestly. Plus, you can get plus 360 on FanDuel,
nice.
Which I think if you like Porter, if you think he's just going to win the minutes, do that. That's what I think. But I just see a Tafa KO happening. I think he's going to chin him. Porter, at the end of the day, he's been beating not great guys. I know you can say the same thing about Tafa, but I just don't think Porter's all that. So I do think Tafa's going to chin him. I like the decision, no action, but
yeah, I like that prop quite a bit. That's a good way to look at it, especially if you break it down the way that a lot of us are. The records spell it out, and Wiz just beautifully said that too. It's like a pretty binary fight. So you're taking that one side of the binary fight and putting money on it, and if it goes the opposite way, hey, you get a push.
One other thing I saw that if I was on Porter, maybe I would think about it's chalk. It was like minus 260 or something. Porter sub only. So any other outcome, you get your money back. And if a submission happens, you win. If it's Porter, you lose. If it's Tafa, I don't think he's ever submitted anybody. No, he's never submitted anybody. We've never even seen him try. So if you wanted to put something, that might be a decent way to do it. But then you have to lay chalk. So if you like Porter, I think it's a decision. But all right, 3-1, kind of, 2-1 there. Wiz is neutral. All right, we've got Randy Brown versus the hottest prospect we've heard from for a while, Jack Della Maddalena. Randy Brown, 16-4-0, 32 years old. He's 6'3" with 70-inch reach, training out of Budokan MMA. Jack Della, he's 13-2-0, 26. He's 6 years younger, but he's 5'11", giving up 4 inches in height. He's giving up 5 inches in reach here. And I don't have a camp for him. If you guys know, just tell me. But lucrative. Start us off, man.
Yeah, I don't think this is the spot to fade Jack Della Maddalena. I know a lot of people want to do it because every time he fights, he's minus 300. I know a lot of people are going to be betting Randy Brown here. I don't think you should bet Randy Brown. I think you should cash out. I think Jack Della Maddalena is going to walk forward. I think he's going to get through Randy Brown's push kicks or whatever he tries to do to keep Jack away. And I think he's going to land heavy shots to the body. I think he's going to land heavy shots to the head. I think he's going to put Randy Brown away in this fight, probably round 1 or round 2.
All right. I think you just talked me off of Randy Brown. Wiz.
I think same. Maddalena, although he's going to be at a 4-inch height and 5-inch reach disadvantage, I think the capability he has when he's boxing and closing the distance, going in and out of distance, starting, is very underrated. I'm saying he's an underrated striker. I'm talking about the ability to recognize that he's at a disadvantage when it comes to the reach. There's a specific way of beating that, and it's darting in and out of that range. And I think that Della Maddalena is an absolute tank when it comes to the boxing. Boxing IQ is off the charts. Able to really win these matchups by landing effectively more than anything. So I think Maddalena inside the distance is something that I'm going to be looking at because, yeah, Randy Brown has proven to be a little bit durable. He's eaten some clean shots against Chaos Williams, and he didn't seem too phased. But for me, it's the effectiveness of the strikes from Della Maddalena that's going to be the difference, and the volume pours on. Because Chaos Williams, we know how he fights. He wings these heavies. He'll land a couple of them on you, but he's not known to be a volume guy. So I'm going to have to go with Maddalena inside the distance here. A lot of people are harping on the grappling of Randy Brown being something that could be a difference maker. And yeah, I get it, understand it, but I don't think that's going to be something in the realm of possibility when you're facing someone like Jack, where, yeah, he's been in his first 2 fights where he lost some minutes on the ground to Angelusa. I don't think we repeat of that with Randy Brown because he doesn't really wrestle all that often, and his entries aren't the best. They're pretty sloppy, and when he gets a hold of you, he tries to go for body takedown, which probably won't work in this matchup specifically. Ultimately, Jack Della Maddalena inside the distance is my look on this fight.
All right. So, I mean, man, the more I tape it, the more my gut is telling me to go with Brown. I thought Brown I still think he might be one of those trap dogs, right? I think Porter's one of them, the one that everybody's on. And I think Brown might be also. But I don't know, man. I feel like there's a lot to like about Brown. And while Maddalena is so good, I get it. But don't we think we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves just a tiny bit? Like, I just don't think he's shown enough that we're for this level of hype. Like, I'm just not really seeing it. Angelusa, that's a great win. Yeah, Angelusa's good, but he's not. I think Randy Brown's better than him. Pete Rodrigues knocked out Mike Jackson. Good job. Ramazan Ameev, blanket wrestler, not much of a striker. And then Danny Roberts. It's Danny Roberts. I don't know, man. I feel like at range, it's Randy Brown. What I don't like about him is because he keeps his damn hands down all the time. That's going to be not the move here. If he's doing that, Jack's probably going to catch him. And I think he is probably going to do that. So I'm probably going to stay off. But I don't know. I think it's going to get dirty. I think it's going to get not like I think it's going to be close the whole fight. So for a pick, I'll take Brown. Will I get there with my money? I don't know yet. I did take a prop on him though. I played his sub plus 1400. Kind of just had to. 10th of a unit there. I think there's some sub upside. I don't necessarily see him really getting takedowns, but he could. He could. Jack has a really, really good scrambling ability though. He's like the second he touches the ground, he's just moving to get back up. But so does Brown. So I think the ground could actually be pretty fun if we get there. My pick will be Brown. No bet yet other than the sub. I will say a few people snagged the sub only on Brown. I think it was like even money at some point or even like underdog money. That is a great grab, I think. But yeah, Brown for me, no real bet yet. Pat?
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Jack Della Maddalena in this spot. I think he's I think maybe not a minus 300, but this is just not the time to fade him, just like James had said. And it is odd seeing Randy Brown go from a minus 300 in his own right in his last fight to now being the guy who's, plus 250. But it's just the striking selection from Jack Della Maddalena. His amount of weapons, his counters, his timing is just great. How he can switch stances, land a strike, and then switch stances from there and fire again with the rear hand. I love it. And I think Randy Brown does not use his range all that well, especially as the fight goes on. He tends to bob and weave, and I think he's going to get himself trapped against the cage and probably hurt pretty badly. And it's a cool test for Jack, though, because Jack fought, Pete Rodrigues, very more of a basic like striking generalist of an opponent, knocked him out. He faced Amiv, who's a grappler, finished him and got out of a submission that fight. He fought Danny Roberts, another boxer. So this is maybe like the first guy that has more of a well-rounded game. So it'll be a cool challenge. And with the weapons and the genetics Brown has at the weight class, 6'3", 78-inch reach, I only saw one guy in the record of Jack Della who actually was like matched those stats. And Jack was able to take him down and brutalize him with elbows and get a stoppage. But yeah, I think it's a spot where Jack is just a better striker. He's going to move better and just find the target. So I do have him closing out a parlay with Jack Jenkins. So that was close to even money.
All right. We'll move on to the next fight, the co-main event of the evening. And when you guys go, if you have an opinion on it, talk about the line movement a little bit. It's been pretty crazy. I know a lot of people are talking about it. I want to see what all of you guys think. So, Pat, you're starting us off here, but I still have to introduce them. We've got Yair Rodrigues versus Josh Emmett. Rodrigues is 14-3-0. He's 30 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach, training out of VFS Academy. Emmett is 18-2-0, 37 years old. He's going to be 7 years older. 5'6". He's 5 inches shorter, giving up 1 inch in reach, training out of Team Alpha Male. Pat, what do you think, man?
Yeah, this is my other money line of the night. I did play at minus 155. I got Yair for a couple of units. I just it should be a striker versus striker matchup. I know Josh Emmett is this wrestle boxer that's fallen in love with his power, and I don't think he's going to switch up from that game plan really, besides stalking forward, looking for the big moments like he did against Cater. And it worked against Cater. He got the split decision call. A lot of people disagree with it. I certainly did, but he's good at getting those knockdowns and landing those big moments. But this time, Yair's got more than just the jab that Calvin Cater had. He's got those kicks, very flashy striker, but there is power behind it. In the first round that we saw against Ortega last time out, Yair did look pretty composed, pretty confident in his skills moving forward and making his mark. Decisively winning that round before the freak accident or just that unfortunate stoppage. I wish we'd have seen more from Yair over the years. I know he's had some different issues that's kept him inactive, but the Holloway fight, extremely impressive as well. So I just think over 5 rounds, he's going to be able to land more, probably get himself a decision call here. Josh Emmett definitely has the power. So does Yair, especially if Yair's moving backwards and he catch, that momentum of a guy crashing the pocket, counter him with something brutal. Maybe the under is a good look here. I think it's the under slight plus money. What's the under in this spot? Do you have the odds up? Under
it's about 150 now. It was 175. It's gone to about 150 now. So it's moving.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. For some reason, just the way I see it playing out, I think Yair just wins by the scorecards. But maybe the under is a way to cover both sides because Emmett does have those moments, where he can land. But I think he's going to have trouble closing that distance. So give me Yair. I'm pretty confident in him. Where the money line is now, you want to talk about the line movement. Where did it move to for? I know it was like minus 180 on some books, even for Yair. Minus 175 I'm seeing on some books.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Where did it start at? It started at like minus 130 something.
Yeah, around there. And then today, all of a sudden, it went from 165 to 170 to all the way to 195, 196,
Oh,
some places.
Jesus.
Bet Online has the opener at minus
I
160.
saw rumors of like injuries from the Emmett camp. I don't know where those are coming from. I heard maybe there's an interview. I didn't have a chance to look into it. Do any of you know if that was like some official thing?
I don't think anything has like officialized it. It's just
Okay.
everyone's talking about it.
Okay. Yeah, I heard like hip. I know nothing. I didn't even look into it or have time to look into it. But just from a injury aside, I think Yair is a good play here. At a minus 190, maybe not so much. You know, if I see it going to decision, we've seen Josh Emmett skate his way through a couple of decisions before and do pretty well. So be warned if this goes to like a minus 200 on Yair.
How about you, Lukadev?
I do see Yair getting the win. I just think he's got more tools. He's younger. I don't see Emmett wrestling him. Probably have to wrestle him to win. What fight has he lost which he hasn't been wrestled in? None. He hasn't lost a fight he hasn't been wrestled in. He's lost 2 fights in the UFC, I think. 2, right? Frankie Edgar and Max Holloway. And he was piecing up Max Holloway on the feet, actually. And Max Holloway decided to wrestle and eventually pulled away with his cardio and his wrestling, right? And then obviously Frankie Edgar dominated him. So seems like he got a wrestle to beat him. Obviously, maybe he hasn't fought the caliber of striker that doesn't wrestle like Emmett. I mean, not really, to be honest. I think he's fought fight. Like Jeremy Stevens, when he fought Yair Rodrigues, probably not on the level of Emmett, but like I wouldn't say it's like a massive, massive difference. You know, stylistically, it was fairly similar. Stevens going to come forward and just throw heavy hands. Emmett's not going to wrestle, man. And if Emmett does wrestle, he's not going to wrestle for 5 rounds, you know, maybe like 1 round and then he just gets tired and he doesn't do it anymore. He's 37 years old now. Yair's got a lot more tools. He's got great kicks. I didn't play anything because I just don't want to lay the juice on Yair because Emmett can knock anyone out and I just don't trust him at minus 180 just in general. But I do like the under 4.5 rounds. Talking about 22 and a half minutes of violence here. So I actually think it goes to decision, you know, like gun to my head. Like I do think Yair probably wins a decision, you know, but there's going to be so many strikes landed that, you know, I could easily be wrong and it doesn't go to decision. You know what I mean? And I have plus money there. So for 22 and a half minutes, when I know it's going to be, I think it's going to be a striking fight. Both fighters are going to land 100 strikes on each other. Yair Rodrigues can knock anybody out. Josh Emmett can knock anybody out. I think it's a recipe for pure violence. I see a lot of body kicks landed by Yair. I think Emmett could be crumpled by a body kick, flying knee, head kick, anything. So the under's good, I think, at plus money. I'll take Yair to win as a pure pick.
3 for 3, Wiz?
Oh, yeah. Very passionate about this one. I'm a big Yair Rodrigues fan, a big Yair Rodrigues backer in this fight specifically. I draw some comparisons, or while taping the fights, this one stood out to me. The Josh Emmett's last fight against Calvin Kattar. You're up against someone who's more known for his boxing, not really much of a wrestler, not really much of a kicker at all either. So strictly the boxing is what you have to worry about for the most part. And he got pieced up just because of the speed. And Yair Rodrigues, I think, is faster than Calvin Kattar. And then you add in the kicking game, it's going to be a whole different type of ball game for Josh Emmett here. I think he's going to be struggling with the speed of Yair. I think he's going to struggle with kicks. And I don't think, I mean, even if he does get takedowns, we saw a glimpse of it in the Brian Ortega fight. Yair Rodrigues' game is pretty good. It's pretty decent. He pops up to his feet immediately, or at least he tries to scramble. And I don't think Josh Emmett's jiu-jitsu is anything to harp on either. I have a pretty big bet on Yair Rodrigues on this fight. So pretty confident, I would say. I want to think it's going to be a decision for Yair here, but I won't rule out the possibility of a knockout or a doctor stoppage because we've seen how Josh Emmett's eyes swelled up in that last fight. I'm not sure why it didn't get stopped, but, you know, I think that's a real possibility here. And then with the injury news, I don't know how true that is. If it is true, that injury could be exploited somehow and cause a stoppage as well. So that's what's stopping me from just laying the straight decision line on Yair. So I just took the money line. I have 5 units on it.
Damn. Okay, Wiz. So in terms of the injury thing, I usually don't pay that any attention at all. I feel like it's just narrative usually. But I feel like recently it's been a little bit more accurate. I mean, forget Derek Minner and that whole thing, but look at Derek Lewis. It was going around all week that there was something wrong with him. Again, some big line movement shortly before the fight. Not like Derek Minner, and I don't mean like right before. I mean like a few days. But look what happened. Derek Lewis was getting thrown around like a dummy. Like it was just something else. Like Spivak is great. He's a good wrestler, but not like that. That just didn't look right. So maybe that was true. And I feel like maybe this is true. But also, I think it was Prince of Mischief who said, like, Emmett's like kind of always injured. He's like 37 years old and just like unwell, but he's still fighting really well. And I don't like to go off narrative, so I'm going to ignore that. But I still like Yair. I feel like at range, it's all Yair. I feel like overall, it should be Yair. The issue is the wrestling, right? I mean, Emmett never does it. He did it like one fight. He got like 8 takedowns. Otherwise, he like never does it at all. He's kind of like Justin Gaethje, where everybody talks about that wrestling background, but then they don't do it, even when they should. So I don't really think it's going to happen here. If it does, Emmett can make easy work. Like I don't see like if Max Holloway is out grappling you like that. I love Max. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. Him and Robbie. He's not a wrestler though, man. He's an amazing striker, but the fact that he had to wrestle is impressive. Says a lot about Yair. But then the fact that he got out grappled by Max like that, I think is also very concerning. And Yair also kind of keeps his chin up a lot. He's not the most defensively sound person, so I won't be shocked if Emmett knocks him out. That's why I kind of hedged myself with the under. I say kind of because Yair could also finish, but I did play the under 2.5. I got it. No, not 2.5. I'm tripping. I got fight doesn't go the distance. Plus 120. I did that for 0.44 units. Not too much because I do think if Yair wins, it's probably a decision. And then I have 2 units on Yair at minus 171. So all 4 of us on Yair, and we can move on to the last fight. We got Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. Islam is 23-1-0. He's 31 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach, training out of AKA with the Dagestani crew. Volkanovski, 25-1-0 as well. I mean, like only 1 loss. 34 years old. He's 3 years older. 5'6". He's 4 inches shorter. He does have a 1-inch reach advantage. And I know that he does work at City Kickboxing. He does work at his home camp. I'm not sure which one it is now. But lucrative. Why don't you start us off, man?
Yeah, so this is a great fight, man. Volkanovski trying to do exactly what Conor did, become champ of 45 and 55. But he's got a much tougher task than Conor did going up against Eddie Alvarez, right? I think Makhachev's probably one of the best fighters we've seen in lightweight division in the last 5 to 10 years. I'm not ready to say he's on the level of Khabib. I'm not ready to say that. He looks like he's a bit more well-rounded, but I'm not ready to say he's got the level of pressure, grappling. Volkanovski's one of the best fighters of all time as well, in my opinion. I think he's probably going to go down as the featherweight greatest fighter of all time. A lot of people like Aldo, a lot of people like Holloway. He's defeated them both, convincingly. I don't know why I know why he's stepping up, but I feel like this is such a tough test. He could have just cleaned out the featherweight division, which he's kind of already done, but he could have just stayed there and just keep winning like Holloway was doing, or like Aldo did, and just like go down as the greatest of all time. But it's a testament to his heart and to his mindset that he's stepping up against one of the best fighters here. There's a lot to unpack, man. I did a YouTube video on this, and it was 25 minutes, just breakdown on one fight. It was in-depth technical analysis, right? So I'm not going to take everyone's time here, but if you want my full in-depth analysis, go and watch that fight. But there's 4 of us here, so I'm not going to waste anybody's time. I am on Alexander Volkanovski here. Plus 300, massive price tag. He's got amazing fight IQ, probably one of the best fight IQs in UFC history. His game planning is amazing. His footwork is unbelievable. I think he's got a real shot to beat Islam Makhachev here. I've seen Islam Makhachev knocked out by Adriano Martins in the first round. I've seen Islam Makhachev drop by a jab against Davi Ramos. I haven't seen Islam Makhachev face the caliber fighter Volkanovski has. And Makhachev has usually been around the same price tag now, right? Like, so he was 170 against Charles Oliveira, but now he's 400 against Volkanovski. And I think Volkanovski's a much better fighter than Charles Oliveira. So I guess Volkanovski has to play very smart. He has to fight a perfect fight to win this fight. Whereas I don't think Makhachev does. I think he can kind of just, lose a couple rounds, but then just get a takedown. And I think he could dominate from top position. But Volkanovski is very hard to hold down. He's extremely scrambly. He will get taken down, but he's very scrambly. I think he can dominate on the feet if the fight goes long. I just feel like plus 300 is an auto bet on someone like Alexander Volkanovski. His fight IQ is amazing. The way he adapts in fight and pre-fight is just unbelievable. He's going to come in with an amazing game plan here. We know that off bat. 100% fact. So I think the side is Volkanovski, man. I could go into this fight technically for ages, but I won't do it. Plus 300 on Volkanovski is my pick.
I'm hyped we're starting off this fight with the Volkanovski pick, though. That's pretty lit. Wiz, how about you, man?
Yeah, I don't blame anyone for taking the plus 300 shot on Volkanovski because obviously he's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC for a reason. He's been doubted a lot going up through his career. My favorite fighter. I'll leave that out there. I've watched all of his fights, been watching him since the regionals, seen him live against Chad Mendes. The man is phenomenal everywhere. I just think the size difference here is just going to be too much for him at this point. And earlier in his career, he did say that he wanted to test out the waters at 135, which also is kind of a red flag, but that was early on in the career. I think, as James has mentioned, he has to fight a perfect fight here. He needs to try and scramble up every time he gets taken down. I do see multiple takedowns for Islam here. On the feet, though, it's definitely competitive, and I think Volk has the edge in the striking. Given that the reach is pretty similar, it's not like a huge disadvantage. I'm going to have to favor Volkanovski because he's just a much cleaner striker, much better fundamentally and technically. But I just feel like Islam can take Volk down and exploit the grappling holes that Brian Ortega was getting off on in that third round. So I do see a Islam sub. Islam inside the distance is going to be my prediction here, but I do not blame anyone for taking the shot on Volk because he's the ultimate professional in this sport, #1 pound-for-pound fighter for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, so I spoke about this yesterday. I'm a sucker for the Dagestanis. Love Habib, love Islam. In terms of who's better, I think it's too early to tell. But according to Habib's own pops, it's Islam. So just saying. Regardless of that. So, I mean, I think James is like, you can't be wrong. Like, you can't be wrong playing a plus 300 on Volkanovski. Literally the pound for pound king right now. I mean, if you're going to play a dog, it's probably the best one. That said, I do think Islam's going to win. I mean, if he's serious about this whole, like, I want to strike this short guy and knock him out, I think he's tripping. And I really hope, I know Habib's not in his corner, but I hope someone is in his ear like, dude, you're playing. You're not going to do that. Because that's how he loses. If he decides to fight with his ego, Volk is going to give it to him. I think he's a much smarter fighter. I think that he's the more technical striker. I don't even think that's really debatable. So I get it, but I do think Islam's just going to get those takedowns. I mean, first of all, Volk's not going to be able to throw kicks. He's smart, so he's probably not going to do them. Because look at Ortega. If Ortega could do that, what's Islam going to do? Every time you throw a damn kick, he's going to catch it. So, I mean, of course he's going to use them. I don't think he's going to be going to it all that often. With the hands, again, I think it's Volk, but I see Islam getting those takedowns. Look at the Shane Young fight of all things, right? I get that was early on. It was a long time ago, but Shane Young is tiny. He's tiny for 145. And now you got Volk coming up against Islam at 155. It's a really big difference. And then what was it? It was also the Chad Mendes fight, 3 takedowns. Mendes can wrestle though, but Islam can wrestle better. The play I like a lot here was the over 2.5. I got it really early because I guess because this was like a big main event. They had it up for a while. I got it on DraftKings. Minus 125 for the over 2.5. And I like that a lot because that way I show my respect for Volk because I don't think he's getting finished early. I really do not think he gets finished early. And I still think Islam wins, but this way, if he wins by decision or late finish, I'm covered. If Volk wins, I think it's going to be over 2.5 as well. So I like that spot. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, once again, just to echo, I mean, James is on a good spot there. This is the best fighter you're ever going to get at plus 300. And it's certainly, when you look at the mathematics, it's the side because there's more of an implied chance, and those odds indicate that he probably wins this fight. But yeah, I see Makhachev winning this fight. I'm pretty confident. He closes out that parlay with Loma for me. And I got him in some just like multi-event DGen parlays. But I like Makhachev in this spot. His skill set is just very strong. And what happens when you have a guy who dominates the wrestling, a guy who dominates the striking in Volkanovski, one of the like highest striking output fighters in his division, like in any division, and Makhachev is like the least hit guy. So it's a very compelling matchup. But like you were saying, Mike, the kicking game is probably going to be limited, the leg kicking game, because it's like can grab those. But what's Volkanovski really good at for his size and his reach? He's good at getting on the inside and boxing you up. I mean, that's going to open up the body lock for Islam. I think the takedowns are going to come. And I think Islam Makhachev's striking is very underrated in how efficient it is. Like, he really lets his opponents come to him. He always has, like, he plays the outside foot game really well. He angles off, never lets himself get backed up, in a straight line. And, he really, like, messes with the rhythm of his opponents when they're striking. And his level changes are very strong for that reason. So I see smothering top pressure. I see, him grinding the head into the chest of Volkanovski, giving him no room and being very patient and eventually getting a submission. I think he does end this inside the distance. So I don't know where that's at. I think that Volkanovski could, probably do some good damaging work with the boxing early as well, maybe get a finish there. But I like the unders in this spot. I like the under 4.5. I feel like that could cover both sides. But in most worlds, I see Makhachev getting another finish inside the distance here.
I thought it was a good point when you brought up the underrated striking of Islam, Pat, because I pulled up the accuracy I wanted to see just because. And Islam's actually more accurate according to the numbers of the UFC stats by 2%. 59% striking accuracy for Islam, 57 for Volk. Again, though, different fights, different styles. But
what do you guys think about like just the pacing of the opening to this fight, like round one? I know, Mike, you brought up the over 2.5. Some people in the comments talking about the over 1.5. I like those plays. I think they're good plays because, like I mentioned with the striking of Makhachev, he's very patient. He's open to let his opponents come to him. Charles rushed into him as he normally does. Volkanovski, do you think he's going to be the aggressor? Or do you think they're going to maybe feel each other out, circle around for like the first half or the first round? What do you guys think about the pacing of this fight? Who makes the first move?
I think Volkanovski is really smart, and I don't think he will. I think he'll pressure in this fight. I think, that's what you want to do against a wrestler. You don't really want to be pressured by them. So I do think he'll use pressure, but I think he'll use calculated pressure. So I do think Volkanovski may be the one taking the center of the octagon. But I do like the overs, yeah, because I feel like Makhachev, even if he gets a takedown, I don't think he doesn't rush things. He's very patient. When he gets that opening, he's so fast at wrapping it up. We saw it against Dan Hooker, but he doesn't rush the opening. When he sees the opening, then he rushes it because it's already open, right? But he doesn't rush the opening. So even in that Drew Dober fight, he took 3 rounds there because he couldn't pass Dober's guard. So I think it's going to be hard to pass Volkanovski's guard. So I don't think Islam will sub him early. And then I do expect it to go late. Sorry if you can hear that dude mowing my lawn. I got to get him mowed in the summer every 3 weeks. But yeah, man, I like the overs. I like the overs.
any thoughts, Wiz?
I do like the overs in this fight as well. I want to say over 2.5 is pretty safe in my opinion. I think Makhachev gets to finish later on in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I played the over, but Pat, in terms of like who's going to come out hotter, I guess it might be Islam, but like I was talking to my brother today and he's like, you really think it's going to go over? like who's gotten over with Islam? And I was like, literally Thiago Moises took him to round 4. Like, who's more physical, Moises or Volk? There's a weight class difference, but I think it's still kind of Volk.
There's
So,
also
and
jiu-jitsu difference, though.
between Volk and Moises, that's a good point too. That's fair, but I feel like Volk's just going to survive. So I did like the over, but
Yeah, I mean Makhachev, like everybody's pointed out, he's super patient. Doesn't risk losing a position to just be the aggressor for no reason. So I think the overs are a good spot. At least halfway through the fight, I wouldn't mind taking that. But do you guys think this goes to the decision? Like it goes all the way, or you just think at least it goes from the toughness of these guys to the halfway mark? Because I'm considering playing the under 4.5. I just feel like somebody's gonna mess up by then. I feel like Makhachev in most worlds would get the finish, but what do you guys think about this? Not seeing the scorecards.
So I think it's really volatile. Sorry, Wiz, go on, mate.
No, go for it, man.
I was just gonna say that I think it's really volatile. Like I do think it's gonna go over 2.5, but in terms of bets, I'm not betting the over 2.5. Like I've got enough risk on this man. Volkanovski money line is good for me. He could KO him early. We saw what happened to Islam Makhachev against Adriano Martins. MMA is a crazy game. Rose Namajunas knocked out Weili Zhang in about 30 seconds. So I think it's quite volatile in terms of the overs and unders. So in terms of a bet, I'm staying away. I'm predicting it to go over. If you was going to say predicting it, fight doesn't go to decision or does, I don't think it goes to decision. Because I feel like someone gets a finish, man. Islam on the mat or Volk on the feet at some point.
Copy paste whatever James said for my breakdown, because that's exactly how I feel. I think someone gets to finish, whether it's Islam on the ground or Volk on the feet. Islam does not have the best striking, in my opinion, although his striking defense numbers are something to boast about, but who has he really faced that is a really, really good striker? That's my big question.
Yeah, right. Like Charles is a great striker, but he took a lot of risks. Like he crashes into the pocket, and he got caught, so.
Charles also gets knocked down like a domino.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really rate Charles as a great striker, in my opinion. Yeah, he has the power and stuff, but when I say a great striker, I mean someone that can do both ends, that can do it well offensively and defensively. And as we've seen, Charles Oliveira defensively is a liability on the feet. Offensively, yeah, he can put things together and he can crack, but he overexposes. When he throws that right hand, that chin is open to the right every single time. And that's exactly how he got caught against Islam that dropped him with the right hook. So that's what I mean by a complete striker.
Gotcha. What about you, Mike? Do you think sees the scorecards or no?
I kind of do, but the odds are nowhere near good enough to play it. I mean, plus 120, plus 150 does not get me hyped for it.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of sweating.
Yeah, no. I mean, realistically, Islam, like again, I think we actually go the distance, but like I totally get everybody saying it. If it's Islam, he probably finishes early. Volk could also catch the chin. I see two really tough guys, and I just see a 5-round war personally. And if it was like plus 200, I'd take a shot, but these odds suck for it, in my opinion. I know I'm like on a complete island here, but I do think we probably hit the scorecards.
All right. No, I like the take. I mean, it's hard to argue with the record of these guys and what they've done so far.
Yeah, you can't underrate Volk, but I also think Islam wins. So, but all right, guys, that's a card. That's a pay-per-view. Thank you guys all for tuning in. We've got quite a few viewers for it being 1:26 a.m. Eastern time. Appreciate every single one of you tuning in. Big thank you to Wiz and Lucrative for coming on. My co-host, Pat, of course, always appreciate him. Love breaking down fights with him. I'll pass the mic to everybody. Let them tell you where they're at, what they're doing this week, any content they've done. For me, I did a breakdown yesterday with Clint from Die Hard MMA. It was a good time. Make sure to check that one out. And then tomorrow, me and Propaholic are going live on Twitter as usual, Twitter Spaces, to just go over props. And I am going to put out an LFA video. I think it's going to be tomorrow. PFL, no promises yet. Hey, Abraham. Yeah, read my mind. But tomorrow, hopefully, brother. And then PFL also probably tomorrow if I do it. It's only 4 fights. I think I will, but all right, Wiz, tell the people where to find you, and thank you for coming on, my guy.
First of all, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Pat, for having me on. You guys are great hosts, and this has been really fun. I'm looking forward to this again in the future. James, my man, you know how much respect I have for you. You're the one that got me into this game, so much respect to you. I've been doing a lot of content lately. My channel and my Twitter both are at WizBets, YouTube and Twitter. That's all I got for social media. And in terms of content, what I've done this week, yesterday I did a huge NFL breakdown. It was the final episode for the Super Bowl coming up this Sunday with Narco Cop, with Ubecha, with Evan, a bunch of the guys in the chat. So that was pretty fun. If you guys want to watch that, and if you have any interest in the Super Bowl, please go ahead and watch that. And today we did the Four Horsemen with Liam, Lou, and Gordo Gambles. We broke down the whole card, so strengthened the takes that much more before before this show. And yeah, on Twitter I'd be giving out my bet every day. I bet all sports, mainly MMA, NBA, and B. And we've been pretty hot, so looking forward to keep this hot streak going. Thank you, guys.
James, thank you, brother. Tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mike, Patrick, for having me on, man. First time we did a stream, so yeah, it's been good fun. Hopefully we can make some winners this weekend. I might jump on Busauskas with you, Mike. We'll see. I think all of you are too scared to jump on Volkanovski with me, so I'm going to ride into the bookies on my own, but it's all good. I've done it many times before. Yeah, thanks for having me on, boys. It's been good fun, man. Just follow me on YouTube, social media, Twitter, it's just Instagram, Lucrative MMA. I did a 25-minute breakdown of the Volkanovski fight on my YouTube, so you can follow me on there. I also do a lot of gambling theory videos, which I think something's missing from MMA. I don't just do full card breakdowns. I also speak about how to gamble professionally, how to gamble properly, because a lot of people don't know that stuff, right? So I like to educate not only on the fights, but also on the gambling side, because it's probably more important. So just follow me on YouTube. You can get all of that sort of stuff, man. Hit me up in the DMs if you want to chat fights, anything like that. Good luck this weekend to everybody in the chat. Thanks to everybody in the chat.
Let's go. And Pat, how about you, man? Tell everybody.
Man, always fun to co-host these pay-per-view weeks. It's a nice tradition we started, Mike, so always a pleasure breaking it down with you. And Wiz, always awesome to break down fights with you. We talk a lot. And James, Lucrative, it's great to finally, talk to you camera to camera, face to face. And I've got a lot of respect for the work that you do, and especially educating on the gambling and the mathematics side of things, which, certainly that most important part of all of this, right? Like, we're not just fight fans, but when we talk about making money on fights, you really have to consider the mathematics side of it even more than, what your gut feeling tells you, what the visuals tell you. So awesome to have you guys on here. Yeah. If you guys don't know me in the live chat, my name is Patrick. I run a YouTube called Addicted to Combat. So go over there and let's talk fights. I'll have my full betting breakdown out. It's a short video, just all my bets in the next day or two. And I might do a live stream watch along for this one too on Saturday. So be sure to check that out and follow me on Twitter.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a good night, afternoon, wherever you're at, and good luck this weekend. Let's go.